gentlemen, nothing to worry about, okay? Let's take a look at a couple things here. So, Bitcoin, right? The rising tide that lifts all ships. Essentially, all we're doing in crypto is trading Bitcoin, okay? So some type of derivative of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the one that moves the markets. Everything else is going to move based off of Bitcoin, okay? So locally, you see what's happening. We're getting this, we'll look at it on the 4-8 hour time frame. We broke out of the 6, 7, 8 month range, came out, went to price discovery, and essentially what's happening is we got a pullback from its all-time high of 108,000 all the way back down to, we came back down about 92,000, right? So we came back to 92.2. Our previous low before that was 91.1. The next low above that was 92.4. And then the next low above that is 95.1, okay? So here's how we want to look at this. Yeah, does Bitcoin not look fantastic? No, but it's fine. Structurally, it's all right because we haven't been making any lower lows, okay? So we still haven't broken market structure. You see this? So every time Bitcoin sweeps lower and takes out some lows, we haven't necessarily broken market structure. You could argue that this one right here, we did come back down lower, but now we're setting higher lows again. And what we're doing here is essentially shaking people out of the market, okay? Market makers, it's an illiquid time of the year. During the holidays this week, people aren't on the markets. Markets are closed when it comes to TradFi. People aren't looking at the screens. People aren't investing. People aren't selling, etc. There's a lot less volume happening right now during the holidays because everybody takes off. So what they do is the market makers take the opportunity to manipulate the markets when they're less liquid, therefore easier to manipulate to shake people out, right? So they're trying to scare you. They're trying to make you feel like it's over. And unless you really started, breaking down further than, let's call it this low or even this low, where are we at here? 88. I mean, unless we break down further than 88.7 and do something like this, we kind of, we come back up here and we pop down here, break down, boom, bounce, maybe come back here, resistance, break down again, boom, come back down, boom, resistance, bang, and did something like that. Yeah, that would be ugly, okay? I'll give you that. If we start breaking down past 88,000 and coming back down in here to like 85,000, 83,000, yeah, we got a problem, okay? Something's happening. Right now, though, these are minuscule pullbacks, okay? So people are getting all this bearish sentiment over this just small move from Bitcoin off the highs because, look at it. We went from 108,000 to the low after that was minus 16,000, which is about a 14.5% pullback. In the grand scheme of things in the world of crypto, that's not a huge pullback, okay? So I'm not looking at that and saying, wow, it's over. I'm scared. I'm selling all my positions. I'm de-risking. I'm actually doubling down right now. I'm actually taking the opportunity for these generational entries to go ahead and reaccumulate more of the assets that I'm convicted on. My conviction bags being what? Okay, the boys club. So Pepe, Brett, Andy, Wolf, and then some of the other ones that we talk about inside the Taylor's Code. And I'm actually going to give you guys one more publicly today that we've had inside the Taylor's Code already, but I'm going to now bring it public. For those of you who aren't inside the organization. But for the most part, those are the 4 ones that we talk about publicly. Those are the biggest conviction plays. I'm doubling and tripling down on those bags right now because in the history of Bitcoin, a 14.85% pullback is nothing. That doesn't mean it's over, okay? That's just a light market correction, allowing people to reaccumulate and redistribute assets. So you see something like a 14.8% pullback, everybody's losing their minds, right? Well, let me show you something here. So that was the scale of that pullback right there, okay? Well, let's take a look at the past. Let's go on the daily time frame. Okay, in the past, how far has Bitcoin pulled back on its run-ups, okay? Let's take a look in here. This is the last cycle. So it started running up December, Q4 of 2020 during the last cycle into 2021, which is essentially the peak of the bull run was in 2021. So let's just take a look at a couple of these pullbacks on Bitcoin and see what it did. So here's the first big pullback. So we ran up to 42,000 effectively, and we dropped all the way back down to 29,000. Look at that. That's a 30% pullback. And what do we do after that 30% pullback? Went higher. Okay, now let's look at this pullback. Okay, so it wasn't over, right? That's my point. What I was saying is, so it wasn't over after a 30% pullback. Get this shit out of here. Okay, so this is in 2020. This is the last bull run. Okay, so we got a 30% correction before we started pumping higher again. So it wasn't over then, right? Okay, let's take a look at this pullback. So from this high to this low, 26% pullback. Let's take it from this high, it's a little bit higher, to this low, 18.45% pullback. Let's take this high. This was the high in April of 21. So this was the high, the first top in last cycle. Came all the way back down to 27.5% pullback before making a lower high. So this would be the complacency shoulder. So this was the Pico top. So shoulder, head, shoulder. So this is head and shoulders. So shoulder, head. This is the Pico top. We break down. We get this complacency shoulder, which is a lower high. This is whenever you sell all your assets before the summertime, because sell them May, go away, which is, this is May 9th, May 10th. Boom. Then we dip throughout the summertime, and then we come up and we make a second top. Okay. But what's my point? So what I'm saying is that you got a 30% correction, a 26% correction, an 18.5% correction before you ultimately got the last large correction before the complacency shoulder, which is where, this is where you sell all your assets. So you sell over here. Okay, this is what you're looking to do in the markets. You're trying to time a complacency shoulder before you get the major breakdown and then the abyss over the summertime, which is when you reaccumulate assets. So the point being is that a 15% pullback is nothing, right? We had double that in January of 21 before ultimately going how much higher. So we get this 30% pullback from this low up to this high after going up another 2.2x. So we went up another 2x plus. We doubled from the low here after a 30% correction. Okay, so it wasn't over. So you go back over here and you say, well, that was a 30% correction. This was a 26% correction. This was an 18%. What did we do over here? Oops. Get that shit out of here. What did we do over here? 14% correction. 14%. You're going to lose your mind over 14%. Guy, it was a 14% correction. That's nothing. That's normal. That shit is normal. That is a normal correction, right? This one right here, and it wasn't over. This was a 9% correction. Nothing. We can say at the top of this wick to the bottom of this wick, it was still only a 12% correction. You understand? So you can't look at this pullback and say, "Oh my God, it's over for Bitcoin. I can't believe it. This is insane. I can't. I got to sell everything. I'm going to de-risk after everything that you did, accumulating all these assets over the past year or 2 years. You're going to sell now. You're going to be afraid now. Of course not. It doesn't make sense, right? The seasonality is on our side as well. You know, it'd be one thing if we were in a season where Bitcoin doesn't typically perform well, or Ethereum doesn't typically perform well. Then yeah, then we would want to look at other scenarios, right? Like if it was May right now and you saw this happening on Bitcoin, okay, yeah, in May it typically does top out. Fair enough. That would make sense. Now we got to be a little bit more careful, look for the complacency shoulder. But we're in the middle of December. Q4 is the most bullish time for Bitcoin. And then after a large Q4, historically over the last 2 cycles, Bitcoin has at least one more massive green quarterly candle, meaning that it's going to at least for one more quarter outperform and do well, or do pump basically in Q1. At least. Could also do it in Q2. So I'm not in any position to look at this and say, all right, objectively, if you just look at a chart right here, right? If I told you what direction is this trend going in, 99% of people are going to say, well, it looks like it's going like this, up and to the right, right? Even if you want to draw a trend line from, here to there, right? Does that look like it broke down from the trend? Does that look like it's about to nuke? No, it's holding this line right here, right? This is fine. This is still an uptrend. This is pretty vertical accumulation range here. So there's nothing about this that tells me, okay, you know, we're going to nuke now, especially with the new administration that's coming in that's incredibly pro crypto, and they themselves are accumulating crypto, right? Trump and his companies are literally buying Ethereum, buying Aave, buying other decentralized finance tokens, DeFi tokens for their own companies. You don't think that they're going to try to help pump the markets? You don't think they're going to help try to make pro crypto legislation? Of course they will. So anyways, that's my point on Bitcoin. So you should get the point. All right. So nothing to be too worried about there.